What is going on, beautiful people? I am Jamar.com, and you are listening to the Entrepremedian Experience, or E squared. Yo, we're going to get into how to make 2024 a remarkable year for you in your business, with your brand, and, just enjoying your life by showing you how to laugh your way all the way to the bank. You see, by using humor as the super connection tool, you can humor your way to a six-figure take home as a creator in 2024. Blending comedy, speaking, marketing, and what I like to call PBJ, your personal brand jam, you can transform your life. And we're going to get into it right in this episode. First, take a listen to our first sponsor. In a world where prescription prices have hit the roof and choosing between meds and meals is a reality for some old folks, fear not, citizens. NetflixRx.com is here to rescue your wallets and your well-being. Introducing the revolutionary flat-fee pharmacy program in partnership with My Free Pharmacy. For just a flat monthly membership, say goodbye to paying for prescriptions. Whether you're bulking up like Brian over here or just want more time dancing with your grandkids, NetflixRx.com is your hero for health. Join the health revolution. A simple sign-up, a flat fee, and voila, free prescriptions for everyone. Don't let high prices pillage your pockets. Take control with NetflixRx.com. NetflixRx.com, because your health shouldn't be a luxury. All right, so for those of you who don't know me, my name is Jamar John Johnson, and as of the time of this recording, I have been pursuing the dream that is stand-up comedy for approximately, I would say, almost 19 years now, going into my 19th year. And I currently live in Austin, Texas, where I have a venue called Truth, Love, and Comedy located on 5th in Colorado. And so I'm producing shows, I'm teaching, training, educating people about the power of humor in both the business context as well as an entertainment context. And when you combine those together, you get something that a lot of people are saying nowadays called edutainment. Now, I've been saying this for years because I noticed that I excelled in school when I had teachers or professors that had a level of humor about them, had a level of authenticity, a level of realness. And so for me, I've always seen the connection and the correlation between humor and business. And it really started for me back when I first saw my first ever live stand-up comedy show, which was in December of 2005. And that's when I decided I was going to be a comedian. But I ended up seeing the cast of the Dave Chappelle show perform live. And in attendance was Kyle Grooms, Marina Franklin, Bill Burr, Donna Rawlings, and rest in peace, Charlie Murphy, who headlined that show. But, my undergrad was accounting, and I had a minor in marketing. And I'll tell you a story about why marketing is so powerful here in a second. But I remember kind of doing the math in my head as an accounting major and kind of getting an approximation. Okay, we got 800 people in here. This is one of 9 sold out shows that they did this weekend. And in a snowstorm, people still came because the draw and the power to laugh and just be entertained was so strong. But the reason why people were there is because the Chappelle show was so iconic that it made people's desire to go see that live performance just through the roof. And so I knew it wasn't just that they were funny, it was also that people were familiar with them. They were known. And so I left there with new friends that night. Mind you, I drove through a snowstorm to get there, and I wasn't supposed to be there, but I'll leave that for another time. I was able to realize the power of building an audience, obviously developing a skill, making people laugh, and bringing people together. But here's the thing. There is a true science to why people laugh, right? There's an art and a science, of course, because not every comedian is the same. Of course, there are some basic joke structures, but there's storytelling and there is super connecting through, interjecting humor at the right time into these stories. And I got to see it at the highest level at that point. And so I knew that that's what I wanted to do with my life. But to me, the fact that it was a business that I could pursue was simply mind-blowing to me. And so at that point, I literally bought every book that I could find on comedy, but also I was really looking to emphasize the business side, because I was like, well, how can I use this to free myself from this 6-figure salary that I'm kind of locked into, because it doesn't make sense to walk away from this type of a living. I was a naval officer. I was a lieutenant. So anyway, let's get into things. Let's go into the power of humor. We know it's a big, big business. And of course, we have all the folks in the 1% that everybody is familiar with, right? Your most famous comedians, your Dave Chappelle's, your Bill Burr's, your Kevin Hart's, your Chris Rock's. There are a lot of big comedians, but there are a lot of comedians that you probably never heard of. They don't have Netflix specials. In fact, they produce their own specials. They put them on YouTube. Those specials, from a click view standpoint, maybe don't generate millions of dollars but it helps them tour. And of course, they make millions of dollars when they actually tour. So the stand-up comedy industry as a business is doing a little over $300 million a year from just a club standpoint. Now, obviously, the data on all of the people who are touring individually is a lot more. And then when you factor in the films, we're talking about billions of dollars are changing hands because people need to laugh, love to laugh, and they literally is considered the best medicine, right? It is the only thing that you can get addicted to that has side effects that people actually appreciate. But there's a whole other side of it in terms of making a living that a lot of comedians aren't aware of. And this is in the realm of the corporate speaking realm. And so in corporate speaking, if you are actually building your business right as a comedian, you are understanding multiple levels and elements of business. Now, of course, the first part is get funny. And in getting funny, there are two main routes that you can pursue, right? If you pursue blue comedy, then you're limited to only working kind of the clubs or building your own audience. But if you're able to work clean, there is a multitude of lanes that opens up, right? Corporate comedy, small businesses, charities, high schools, colleges, right? The list goes on. And just between those alone, ask yourself, how many colleges, how many high schools are in America? Do you think they hire speakers to come in and uplift and inspire their audiences? The answer would be yes. So, on the college side, there's a well-known organization called NACA in which people show up and basically you pay to play. You pay to enter the NACA arena and you showcase your teachings. So there are a bunch of things that I'm going to go into in terms of how to really knock it out of the park in that realm. But the reality is that if you are a comedian with at least 45 minutes of material, which essentially you could think about that as about 1.5 jokes per minute, so to speak. Just obviously you want to be able to do more than that, but just serviceable, right? If you've got, 10 great stories and maybe 45 great little jokes to kind of fill in that time, from a strategy standpoint, thinking about it logically, you can go and join that NACA circuit and do, feature and or headline. But if you're able to tie in life lessons, along with your comedic ability, that opens up the door on so many levels. And what I want you to think about out there, if you're a comedian out there and you want to make a living really doing this, imagine if you've only really got 20 minutes of really funny material that's clean, but you're able to give life lessons on top of that. And you're able to inspire, motivate, tell stories. Instead of you going and trying to book yourself as a comedian, if you book yourself as a speaker who just happens to be funny, now you're working on your material, you're getting paid a higher rate, anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000, depending on your abilities, your negotiation skills, right? You see, there's a lot of levels to this game. And we're up there telling jokes. We are essentially selling in real time. We're selling ideas. We're tricking people with laughter, right? We're doing misdirects. We're doing reverses. We're doing power of threes. We've got all these structures that we're using to be the highest level of communicators. But most comedians make very little money. Obviously there are a lot of people who are just amateur and, doing open mics and doing shows. And, if you're making $30, $40 a show as a comic, essentially that's you getting paid to do open mics because you're not really doing shows. You don't have an audience. You're not building a brand. You're not getting paid corporate dollars. If you're getting paid $500 to $1,000, then you probably have the capacity to be doubling and tripling that if you only knew where to look. You see, business is about controlling lead flow. And when you're able to get access to leads that are willing to pay a top dollar, that is how you make more money. You're doing the same thing in a different environment. That equals more money. So we're going to get into that after I take a sip of this Fine Here coffee brought to you by Costco. Now, real quick here, what I want to do is shift gears for a second. Because as an entrepreneur, I also believe that entrepreneurs could do vastly better in their fields if they learned how to master communication by having the ability to implement humor, having some preset stuff, some preset material, but also being able to be very quick on their feet and leveraging the ability to improvise while you are communicating. This is going to heighten the level of connection, the likability, the know, like, and trust factor, but also it allows you to point out elephants in the room during sales cycles, break tension, and let people know that you are extremely present with them while you are going through this process with them of discovering. So let's talk for a minute about sales. Now, there's a really, really great book that I highly recommend that people either read or listen to. I've done both. It's called To Sell is Human by Daniel Pink. You can also find some really good talks, some keynotes he's done on the book, which really help you round out the context on all of the different ways. You see, there are a lot of people who are in sales, but they don't realize it. If you're a comedian, if you're a speaker, if you're an entrepreneur, you're most likely in sales to some percentage of your time. And so you're selling yourself, you're selling your material, you are selling. But if you have a really, if you have a warped sense of what selling is, you're going to be repelled by it. It's going to turn you off. And if you're not turned on by it, then it's hard to master it. It's hard to excel at it. The reason why people pursue comedy, the reason why people pursue speaking careers is because they're turned on, they're excited by it. You like being on stage. You like speaking to people, motivating, inspiring them, making them laugh, right? But let's talk about this acronym for what sales is. Sales is not do anything to get the close, right? Sales is opening an opportunity for a potential long-term value relationship. So let's take sales, let's break it into an acronym that I've heard and I've made some alterations to it, but let's take the S, for example. In sales, you have to show up with a service mentality, right? When you're a comedian or a speaker, your job is to come serve this audience with a message. Make them laugh, make them think, make them cry maybe, make them take some notes, and leave them with some great lessons, right? The A in sales is for ask questions. Now, when you're a speaker, you want to ask a lot of these questions ahead of time. You want to do a survey. Even if you're a comedian, you want to do a survey ahead of time to really understand what the needs are of your client so you can really fulfill on those promises. But even as you're a comedian and you're live with an audience, if you learn how to ask really good open-ended questions, you're going to get really surprising answers, which turns into a nice back and forth conversation, which is how some of the comedians are really going viral in today's digital landscape, because they're using the ability to ask questions, they're taking those answers, and then they're just playing with the answers. They're using their improv skills, also known as riffing skills. They're riffing off of answers from the audience and creating this very fun, cohesive environment. Obviously, there's a comedian who's really popular right now. He's chiseled. He's got a chiseled face. He's done plastic surgery, and he's very fit. He's in shape, and the ladies love him, right? Because of all of the interaction, asking questions. There have been a lot of people, though, that I've met, that I've spoke to. You know, I'm not throwing any shade. Much respect for all of his accomplishments, but there have been a lot of people who said, "Hey, I watched his Netflix special, and it left me much to be desired. I thought his riffing material was much more enjoyable than his jokes." And so, see, that's a problem. But guess what? He's still on tour selling out everywhere he goes. Because guess what? He's doing a particular type of comedy that attracts a certain type of audience who want to be a part of it. And guess what? He'll be able to tour for the next 5 to 10 years based off of the building of this current audience. So I've heard him talk on podcasts that, you know, he would like to tell his material, but he's got to give the audience what they want, because that's what's made him. And to shift that, he's going to have to go through some hard growing pains and a lot of disgruntled customers, because what has made him famous, that's now his brand, you see? So the power of brand is that people watch the TikToks and the Instagrams, and then they go watch the full special, and it's not just him riffing for an hour, and that leaves people disappointed, right? But that's a good problem to have. You can figure that out. At this point, with all the money he's generating, his friends around him, he could hire coaches, writing assistants. He can get his material on the level. It's going to be hard work. That's the thing. Building up a comedy routine probably takes 90% more effort than building up a good keynote talk. Yes, I said it. Keynote speakers are great. They motivate, they inspire, they make 5 to 10,000 to 20,000 a talk, depending on who you are. I think comedians are better at what they do, and I want to create more crossover, because the opportunity there, and even I want to create some tertiary crossover, because I think business owners, entrepreneurs, people who are in sales positions, people in marketing, if they dove into and understood the mechanics of comedy and humor more, it would make them better at their jobs, more persuasive, more entertaining, more engaging, more connectable. And at the end of the day, super connecting is the way that you create true long-term value. Okay? So you see, this stuff gets me excited. But let's talk about the importance of humor with an audience, right? Breaking the ice. You know, humor serves as an effective icebreaker, immediately creating relaxed and welcoming environment for an audience. Now, some comedians, right, in a club environment, do the opposite, right? They want to create a hostile environment with some of their initial interactions, because that's the point of view that they want the audience to know that they're coming from for the context of their jokes. A good example of this, Andrew Dice Clay. Now, I would imagine back in his day in the 80s, there might have been a couple of corporations that booked Andrew Dice Clay for some after hours event, right? But he's not coming in daytime. He's not coming in during the lunch buffet and doing material, because he's too raunchy, too raw, too real, and that's not what corporations are looking for. But I'm pretty sure that Jim Gaffigan has gone and done a bunch of corporate events, right? Because he's safe, he's PG-13, and when you come in and just make what I like to call elephant in the room acknowledgments, you let the audience know that you're here with them, you're present with them, and we're going to have a one-of-a-kind, unique experience. Because just by the fact that you open up with engagement, that audience knows that that could not have been what you've said for years. That's not pre-planned. That is on the spot. And they give you a lot more credit for that for some reason. And I think I know the reason. The reason is because the people want to feel like they're a part of it. You know, most of the corporate events that I've done in the last decade, I've really focused on making it about them. And the feedback has always been great, because it was like, wow, that was so tailored to us. We really appreciate that effort. So that's one of my biggest recommendations to you, is to give them what they want. Make sure you have that proper survey. It makes your ability to interact with them a lot easier. The next thing is that you greatly enhance the retention of the information that you're delivering when you interact with the audience, when you ask open-ended questions, when you call on people, right? As a speaker or a comedian, a lot of crossover there. Those people you speak to, they're going to never forget that moment. They're going to remember it for life. But also, the audience becomes more alert, because now people don't know if they're going to be called on. Now, for some people, let's be honest, some people are going to get nervous. Some people are going to be like, oh my God, I hope he doesn't call on me, right? Or hope he doesn't pick on me, right? If you're picking on people. So that is definitely one of the fears. But in a playful environment, when you're doing a corporate gig, people know that it's all going to be in good fun. And oftentimes, CEOs, HR teams, they will come to me and give me lists of names of people that they want me to call out and bring up funny things for that aren't offensive in any way, right? Next, I said it before, I'll say it again, building connection. Humor fosters a sense of connection and relatability between the performer and the audience. And it just makes you more approachable as a person when they realize that you don't have this third wall. You're not performing to a sea of darkness or to a ball of light. You are performing to people. One of the really important things here is eye contact. Now, I do have a speaking coaching program, and I do have a course attached to it that you can view standalone. And I talk a lot about these things, everything from body posture to eye contact, hand position, hand gestures. All of these things matter. Now, what happens is comedians start to master these things subconsciously over time as they perform, as they get comfortable. But when you can start working on these things right away, what it does is it acclimates you to performing at high levels faster. My largest audience that I performed for was 20,000 people at the Civic Center in San Francisco, and it was an outdoor event. Amazing photo of it, a selfie that I took on my website, imjamar.com. You can take a look at that. That was an incredible experience, completely different than performing for 3,000 people or 200 people, right? So you got to be prepared for that with how you position and relax your body. The next thing is humor can ease complex topics. A lot of us have gone through some really hard adversity. And when you can share something deep and dark and heavy, but then at the same time, add a little bit of humor, that levity elevates it and takes people from just simply feeling sorry. This is why I said you want to be able to make people laugh, cry, think, and take notes, because you can take someone into a dark place, but then elevate them with the levity and basically rescue them into a place of safety to now receive the messages that you've learned. I have a really good talk that I gave that I became the vice champion of public speaking for. And I say vice champion in jest because I came in second, essentially. But I talked about, what I learned overcoming the adversities of my youth. And I called that talk Through the Fire, right? And there were 5 P's that I used to kind of become the pillars of that talk. The 5 P's were, first was understanding my purpose, then learning patience, perseverance, perspective, and perception. Those 5 P's really kind of dictate my life, even to this day. Without purpose, without knowing your purpose specifically, you are, a ship in the night, headed to a destination guaranteed to be lost at sea. And as a former naval officer, that specific metaphor really resonated with me because I remember us constantly looking at ways to, make sure that we knew where we were going. And even if we had to avert and go around a different route because of weather, because of obstacles, we always were able to rechart that. But we always left with a game plan. And obviously, you have to have persistence. In this world, I live in the United States of America at the time of this recording. But this is a capitalistic society. And, capitalism has winners and it has losers, unfortunately. But it's the best of the worst systems at the moment. And so you've got to figure out how to be highly adaptable to give yourself a fighting chance to succeed at whatever it is that you're doing. And persistence and grit and determination are vital to that game plan. But a lot of people I see out here are operating on autopilot, and there's no driver behind the wheel, and they're just letting things happen and then complaining about it, but not taking enough action, not learning enough, not reading enough, not trying enough. If at first you don't succeed, pick yourself up and try again, to quote, the very famous, rest in peace, Aaliyah. Those are the things that I think about when times get tough. And the last thing on this first topic of, humor engaging audiences is that it boosts engagement. Laughter and amusement keep the audience, more alert, engaged. It reduces the likelihood of boredom or disinterest during the presentation or the performance. The other thing, though, is that it releases a chemical called oxytocin. And oxytocin is that connection chemical. It's the same chemical that's released between a mother and a child, between 2 loving partners, between close friends. And it basically helps you create a sense of tribehood with the person who is speaking. And so, humor in your presentations, whether you're pitching to raise money as a tech startup founder, whether you are, trying to become the best salesperson, whether you're a marketer trying to pitch your ideas, whether you're a firm, an agency trying to get new clients, whether you're a husband trying to, keep your wife engaged, humor will go a long way in alleviating stress, releasing tension, opening up the possibility for new ideas. And so, obviously, if you're listening to this podcast, you are most likely already a believer in the power of humor. But now, let's talk about in this next section how to truly go pro. Because there is no reason why, if you apply some of these strategies and tactics in 2024, you don't put at least $100,000 in your bank account so that you can expand your business and your brand. Now, we know that artificial intelligence is coming. It's already here. I've been using it within my business for the last 24 months. I know some of you are just now picking up on it. Some of you are just now trying to figure out how to implement it into your business. But I'm here to tell you that you being funny as a part of your brand is irreplaceable. Artificial intelligence, it can make video in seconds. Obviously it can write in seconds, but it can't do this. It can't just jump on camera and be unpredictable and be funny. Not yet anyway. I'm sure it'll get there, because even as I'm recording this podcast for you, part of my plan over the next 3 hours of episodes that I plan on producing here in the next 3 days, right here before the new year. Here we are. This is December 30th. My plan is to batch record at least 2 episodes today. And then I'm going to also record 1 episode on the 31st. And those 3 episodes, those 3 hours of recordings will enable me to submit my voice into a company that will do a deep dissection of my voice, and then allow me to then be able to replicate my voice to like a 98% certainty level, which will then give me the ability to do so many things in my business. From a content creation standpoint, I'll be able to make content 5 times faster. I'll be able to take PDF files and turn them into me doing audiobook versions of them. I'll be able to increase the different tonality, excitement, depth to my voice if I want to go deeper. Like, there's going to be so many things that I can do with that. That alone will probably add 6 figures into my business in 2024. Just that one, just capturing my voice. And so this is the podcast that you're going to want to tune into on a weekly basis to really take your business and brand to the next level, injecting humor, but also learning business tactics and strategies. So make sure you tune into Entrepremedian.com, subscribe to the newsletter there, and follow what I'm doing, because I'm going to be giving away the blueprint completely free. Because here's what I realized about the freemium model. When you give away free game, those who want to implement and go faster, they will pay you to do so. But those of you who don't mind getting the slow drip week after week after week, you can do it completely on your own. That is the goal here. And then eventually I might take these episodes down and put them into an accelerator, because I'm doing both video and audio as I'm making this podcast. So that was a little commercial break that you weren't even aware of, because you were just listening in, you were tuning in. Now let's talk about how to properly interject humor into your talks, right? Because again, remember, I want you to shift thinking. If you're working on just jokes, you can always go find an open mic in just about every city, or you can make one. But if you want to make money, if you want to put 6 figures in your bank account in 2024, you need to position yourself as a speaker who happens to be funny. But you can always interject your comedy in your talk. So let's talk about that. First is relevant anecdotes. Obviously you want to be sharing personal stories, relatable stories that have a humorous element to them. And then ensure that you use anecdotes that align with the overall message of your speech, but then also take those anecdotes and flip them on their head and turn those into jokes, right? When you use those standard cliches that people have been using for years, people are going to recognize them, and then the humor is going to hit even harder, because there's going to be this, think about it. Everybody isn't watching the same television shows as they once were, right? The internet media has become very, very fragmented. And so if you're able to take anecdotes that people use, depending on the industry, right, depending on who you're serving, turn those anecdotes into jokes, now you're adding material while improving your stories, your personal stories. Next your timing and your delivery. Master the timing of jokes. Practice the delivery to maximize the humorous impact without overshadowing the main content. Now, what I mean by that is try to tell your story a little bit different every time to see where you can add a little bit more humor, where you should take some away. Because again, as a speaker, your effectiveness is really going to be felt when people are saying, hey, I walked away with this. Oh, thank you for that lesson. Specifics, right? If people just leave saying, oh, you were really funny, I enjoyed you, that's not enough. And this is where having the ability to use tools to survey your audience is so critical, because the things that people really highlight are the things that you should be making additional content on, PDF takeaways, t-shirts, mugs, etc., right? Your audience will tell you how to serve them if you ask the right questions. Obviously, observational humor is really great because you're observing the things you're seeing in and around the different companies that you might be going and serving. Using observational humor related to common experiences or current events as it relates to those industries, make sure it's relatable and understandable to your audience, right? So analogies, taking news stories that are about the industry that you're about to go serve, those are the ways that you can really level up your content so to make it fresh every time you go out there, along with your stories about key principles for your brand. Obviously, you can never go wrong with self-deprecating humor. Lightly poke fun at yourself to show humility, relatability, but avoid overdoing it, right? Because you still want to maintain your credibility. This is a fine dance. And honestly, this is something that I struggle with. I don't do a lot of self-deprecating humor. And the kind that I do tends to kind of put myself into a light of like, oh, he's very intelligent, because that was a very smart joke. So try to avoid the simple self-deprecation that has been overdone. Obviously, I'm in shape, I'm fit, I'm good looking. Obviously, when I say that, there are some people who think, well, how good looking is he? If I was to rate myself on a 1 to 10 scale, I would say I'm an adjustable 7. And what I mean by that is, I feel like I'm decent enough, but I don't have all my eggs in my looks basket, if you know what I mean. Like, I know that my wit, my charm, my sense of humor, my ability to be very interested and connected with people is way more valuable to me than my looks. But don't get it twisted, right? People who are very attractive, they're going to get a lot of opportunities just based on them being attractive, right? But you can't hate on them for that. That's just life, right? Life ain't fair. But most of the best comedians are funny looking anyway. So I remember I used to get into it a lot with Pete Davidson at a club in New York that I helped open up, and used to produce some shows at. And he was on my shows, and I liked the kid. He was funny, but he always used to try to make fun of me for being too attractive to be doing comedy, which I never understood. But apparently, when you have self-esteem issues, people that are confident in who they are can be intimidating. And so Pete Davidson used to try to rip on me. But I appreciated Pete because, I was able to get some good jokes out of that. Him and Big J. Okerson were some comedians that used to always make fun of me for being attractive. I'll kindly take it, gentlemen, but my looks aren't my main focus. But so use self-deprecating and sparing amounts, and use it to strategically position yourself without losing credibility on the subject at hand. Now, here's something that I think a lot of comedians could care to use. That is using visuals, using humorous visuals or slides to complement, the verbal humor. This can include images, cartoons, lighthearted memes relevant to your topic. I think this is one of the easiest way to really bring a level of preparedness. I had the pleasure. I went to a conference in Vegas back in July of 23, and I was able to go see Carrot Top for the first time. I'd seen him on the Joe Rogan podcast a couple of times. Thought he was very intelligent. Thought his story was fascinating, and honestly, anytime that I go back to Vegas, I will make an attempt to go see Carrot Top perform because he was really that good. And he uses a lot of visuals to stay relevant. He's constantly writing new material based on current events, so the show felt very fresh. And then he invents new objects to make fun of and make jokes out of. So prop comedy at a whole nother level. I think one of the things I'm going to do in 2024 is attempt to make a couple of prop jokes. And I'm not even afraid of someone calling it hack or anything, because at the end of the day, why limit your creativity into a narrow box that someone else is trying to put you in? If you have ideas, I've always been an inventor of sorts. I've always been an artist, a creator of sorts. Put those things to work, because people only get to see Carrot Top in Vegas. So there's hardly anybody else doing what he's doing. And so, I'm definitely going to try to put a couple of ideas together, because I think that separates you from everyone else in today's marketplace. And especially if you can come up with a couple of, funny innuendos or semi-clean prop type jokes, yes, you don't want to, it's hard to travel with them. So I just want a couple. But for my local market, it'll be an amazing homage. Instead of Carrot Top, I'll be Chocolate Top. Pause. For those of you who know, you know. All right, so we're going to take a quick little commercial break. I'm going to take a moment to talk to you about the UpMind Entrepremedian Mastermind. Now, this is a mastermind that I've been running now for almost 6 months, and it's a monthly membership that helps speakers, comedians, creators monetize themselves online. You can do this in a number of ways, from content creation, affiliate marketing, CPA marketing, building an audience, gaining sponsorship. The list goes on and on and on. There are over 12 different ways that you can monetize yourself online. And why is this important? Well, at one point or another, you might not be able to go on the road like you once did, or your desire to go on the road might change. Well, that doesn't mean your income can afford to stop. And so what I do in this mastermind is I go through a bunch of courses, as well as every single week for an hour, there is a live coaching call with, full with Q&A, and the ability to have a 24/7, 365 group chat, where the network, ever expanding and growing, are sharing their wins, supporting one another, creating collaborations and opportunities. And honestly, I think there is nothing like it on the planet. I created it because I wanted to create the community that I always wished that I had, as well as taking all the knowledge and wisdom that I've learned over the last decade to make 6 and 7 figures online and show people how to make money and free themselves from the matrix if they want. So yes, I will be your Morpheus. If you're interested, go to upmind.club. That's UPMIND.club. Take a look at some of the resources on that page. And if you're interested in potentially joining the mastermind, schedule some time with me to talk about how it can work for you. I do have monthly options, and you do save if you decide to join on an annual plan. But let's talk about that in the new year. Check out the UpMind Mastermind, where I show you how to make money online with your mind. All right, let's get back into this podcast. I want to talk about building a memorable brand using humor. Now, of course, a lot of comedians are just posting content of themselves riffing with the audience to build their brand. And I think it's not a bad strategy. But it's very limiting from the standpoint of then the audience expects that wherever you go. And how does that relate to the corporate side? Because what you don't see is people doing that from the corporate side. Mostly what you see are people, just showing images of what they're doing on the corporate side, showing little snippets. And so when you shift from just being a comedian to a speaker, now just showing yourself in front of and surrounded by large audiences, that builds the credibility that you've been there and you've done that before. So building your brand up with quality photos is going to be something that you want to be doing. And then you can do voiceover explaining the situation. But one of the most powerful things that you can do is using Reels on platforms like Instagram, Facebook, of course, TikTok, and then you want to use Shorts on YouTube in order to start to build up that micro portfolio of you performing in various places. So using humor obviously can help establish a distinct, memorable personality for your brand, and it sets you apart. There's a lot of humor happening, but doing it consistently is very important in 2024. So you want to have some sort of posting schedule that you can maintain. If it's once a week, do once a week, but you got to keep putting up content. Shout out to one of my favorite coaching clients and friends and business partners, Mr. Julian Wallace. Julian Wallace created a production company called More Than a Dreamer, and he has been on me like white on rice for the last few years because he's like, Jamar, you're only putting out 1% of all the content you're creating. You have to put out more so people can realize how dope you are. And I was like, yeah, I appreciate it. But you see, the thing is I learned how to go out and find clients without them finding me. And yes, it is hard work, but it's predictable because I can always be on the offensive. When you make content, you're kind of waiting to exhale. You're waiting for someone to select you. So you definitely want to be doing a combination of both. Obviously, brand recall. If you put your content out with a very similar formatting, color scheme, etc., you're going to create some brand recall, which obviously makes you more memorable. Oftentimes, because there's so much content, people are seeing humor all the time. It's hard to remember people because their branding isn't on point. It's like, who was that guy? People remember bits, but they don't remember the comedian. If nobody remembers your name, it's hard for people to book you. It's hard for people to recommend you. Name recognition. Think about your brand. Think about your name. Even if you're using a code name, that's very important for the consistency of your brand messaging. Obviously, you want to build customer loyalty. Shared laughter creates an emotional bond, fostering loyalty as customers feel personal connections to the brand. Now, if you're a comedian and you tour, you're a speaker and you tour, you want to have other ways to monetize your brand. A book, t-shirts, mugs, keychains, bracelets. I remember, I'll tell you a quick story. This must have been back in about 2012. I was hanging out with a buddy of mine named Orlando Baxter, who was opening up for Joe Coy at the moment. Now, if you go on Netflix, Joe Coy probably has maybe 4 Netflix specials. I got to double check. It might be 5 at this point. But at the time, he was, selling out clubs like Caroline's, which I believe had about 250, maybe 300 people, doing multiple shows on a weekend. But I was amazed at how much merch he was selling after his show. Why? Because he opened the hearts and the minds of the people, and they wanted something to remember him by. Now, Joe Coy is one of the funniest guys I've ever seen. Absolute entrepreneur to the core, business inside and out, bet on himself. Tell you a quick story. When he tried to get his first Netflix special, he approached them and they said they weren't interested. But he believed in himself. And so he took all of the money he had, which at that point was $250,000, and he produced and shot, filmed, edited, directed his own special up in Seattle. That completed special he then took back to Netflix, and they bought it from him for $600K, thereabouts. Now, I heard him tell this story himself verbatim. And the sale of that special then led to him making millions of dollars, because he went from just doing clubs to doing theaters. Then from doing theaters, now he's doing stadiums worldwide. Every special has just increased. His notoriety, which means his brand. He even has an incredible logo, right? The Joe Coy logo that is on all of his stuff. So besides just selling out these stadiums, I have no doubt that he's probably making as much, if not more, from the merch sales. Because when people leave that live event, they want something to remember it by. A jacket, a hat, a t-shirt, a bracelet, a poster, you name it. So comedy is very, very big business. And I want you guys to understand that. And if you don't treat it as such, it'll treat you the way you treat it. If you treat it like a hobby, it will pay you like a hobby. So let's get real. Facilitating viral marketing. So humor has a high shareability, making it a powerful tool for viral marketing and organic reach on these social media platforms. Now, this is really important as you start to establish connections with brands. If you're using your ability to do sponsored posts and you're creating funny sketches, you're using humor, you're going to be able to move thousands of units of different products and or refer people to different services. In fact, I have a referral link that can have you laughing your way all the way to the bank, literally, at the time of this recording, and put $25 in your bank account just for opening up a new bank account. But the powerful thing from there is that they then allow you to refer it out, and they pay you $75 per conversion. We call this CPA marketing. So if you're interested in this, go to imjamar.com/bank and go watch a quick little video there of how you can laugh your way to the bank. And I've got a special offer there for those who are interested in that. But these CPA offers, if you have the ability to drive traffic to offers, you can make money without actually being on the road or being on tour, just by typing an email, using a text notification list, etc. Now, Joe Coy, at the level that he's at, he has high levels of marketing that start promoting months out that he's going to be doing a theater here or a theater there. They're using data and analytics to determine where he should be going on tour. And so he doesn't have to have that email list or that personalized list because he's big enough, right? Millions of people know who he is. I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't have 10 million followers on Instagram. I haven't looked at his profile in a while. Joe Coy, only 2.2 million, excuse me, not 10, but he's got 2.2 million followers. Absolutely incredible. And then when you go over to his website, joecoy.io, it has all his tour dates. He's doing a theater in St. Louis. He's doing a theater in Memphis, Tennessee. He's doing Chattanooga, Tennessee, Miami, Florida. I mean, he's just theater. And his merch is pretty cool looking as well. I mean, he's got hats, sweaters. He has a toy. He has a Joe Coy toy autograph for $40. He's got all sorts of sweaters and hoodies and hats. And to be honest with you, his Joe Coy merch, it looks a lot like the Yankees. Like if you look at the sleek design of the logo, he kind of took, some inspiration, whoever his designer was, and made it kind of feel like a Yankee hat. And so I have never seen someone personally wear a Joe Coy hat other than like at, footage from his events. But the fact of the matter is, if somebody buys it, that's still, $40 for a hat. The hat might cost $10 to make combined, if that. Pretty good markup. But ultimately, finding unique angles, creating, funny viral content allows you to break through the clutter. In a sea of generic advertising, humor stands out, attracting attention and engaging an audience in a crowded marketplace. And this is why, if you look at most of the attempts at advertising on the Super Bowl, they all tend to have humor. Like 95% of them. It might be 99%. Because if it's not funny, it's not memorable, right? So using humor in your advertising messaging, in your content, is a huge advantage for every business owner, entrepreneur, personal brand. What's your sense of humor? Maybe it's deadpan, maybe it's dry, maybe it's goofy, maybe it's silly. Like, there's so many different levels to this game. Don't be afraid to interject it all. And now that we're talking about marketing and advertising, let's look at a quick little case study of a couple of these brands that you might find familiar. First, we have Old Spice. I know you guys know Old Spice. Ladies, do you like a man who's more than a man who wears Old Spice? Remember that commercial with the chocolate brother? They revolutionized their brand with humor and quirky advertising. I think right now, Dion Cole is their main, advertising celebrity, right? They target a younger demographic. And I'll be honest with you, I've got a deodorant container in there. I got a bar of Old Spice, and it was from those commercials. And I probably have bought some shower gel and some other things in the last couple years because of those commercials, right? What about Dollar Shave Club, right? They gained viral fame and a customer base with the growth using their humorous and unconventional ads, right? Showcasing the brand's personality and then the value proposition. Also, another funny brand, right? Insurance is pretty boring, right? But look at Geico, known for its humorous ads featuring the Geico Gecko and the Hump Day Camel. And they successfully created memorable and entertaining content that resonates with a wide audience. Everyone knows those ads. We also have Burger King, right? State Farm, right? The list goes on. Think about the most memorable brands, and unless they're trying to be super intense and deep, like the way Nike does, every once in a while Nike will sprinkle in some humor just to kind of switch it up. They tend to be serious, and they're trying to be like the legacy brand, right? But humor stands out way more. What about Doritos? Their Crash the Super Bowl campaign that encouraged user-generated humorous content, engaging customers directly in the brand's marketing efforts and creating a buzz around their product. This type of content gets people doing all sorts of silly stuff from, challenges. Remember the bucket challenge? That was actually a campaign from a nonprofit. The ALS challenge, the bucket challenge, which helped spread awareness about their cause, which led to more donations, right? I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not double checking this right now in the moment, but they made almost $100 million in donations from that challenge. So humor is game changing in terms of branding and marketing if you only just give it a try. So let's talk about how you, the individual, the personal brand, the entrepreneur, can leverage humor into your marketing campaigns. First you have to understand your audience. You want to tailor your humor that suits the tastes of the audience that you're trying to target, right? And it's almost like this is why some people have different characters, and so they create different profiles and they build up different audiences. Like, for example, Larry the Cable Guy, his real name is like Whitney. And he was doing stand-up as a normal guy and then created this character called Larry the Cable Guy. That's what took him off. That's so important to understand, that, trying different things but creating different lanes. Now you can just create a different Instagram account and start pumping out content as that character. There's subtlety and nuance to using humor in your marketing campaigns. Sometimes you want to employ just subtle humor that enhances the message rather than overshadowing the product or the service, right? So if your service is to come in and speak, maybe if you have a 30-second advertisement, maybe there's just like 3 seconds at the end that shows some of your goofiness or some of your wittiness. Like, it doesn't have to overwhelm it. You just need a little sprinkle here and there. Consistency. Ensure that the humor aligns with your overall brand voice, especially one where you're trying to leverage the power of going into speaking, because obviously it pays way more, but you want to show that there's a level of professionalism that you actually have, so that people don't think that it's just fun and games. Obviously, you want to use social media. Use every platform you can. Repurpose. And testing and feedback. Once you start to get a client base, start reaching back to your old clients and take some of the lessons you learned from the talks you've given to them, and then create new ads and leverage their feedback to help improve and iterate on those ads. Also, just ask your network, hey, I'm just working on this new ad. Let me know your thoughts, which will obviously help you get some extra views, but also some feedback, some comments, get the algorithm going for you. So here's some do's and don'ts of marketing, depending on if you want to go that corporate route, right? Keep it inclusive, keep it current, balance humor with information, definitely use visuals, and definitely monitor audience reaction. Be present. If people are leaving comments, you want to, until you get to the point where you're getting thousands of comments every day, please interact with every comment that comes your way. You can't go wrong with that. It's just going to make people feel seen and heard, and that's what we all want in the end. Here are some don'ts. Don't rely solely on humor. If all you're trying to do is make everything funny, you're going to get burnt out, because with humor, to quote the famous Jerry Seinfeld, if you write 100 jokes, 90 of them aren't going to be worth anything, right? So balance out. Do what I call show your work. As you're making content, as you're just going through the ins and outs of it all, just show your work sometimes, versus feeling the pressure of always making everything funny. Let's see, mock competitors in a lighthearted way, not in a serious way. Definitely don't just ignore cultural sensitivities. Obviously, cancel culture is out here. What you do at inside the club or in your own private events is one thing, but remember, when you're going out into corporate settings, you have these diverse workplaces, and you definitely don't want to be, find out what level of humor you should be implementing, right? Is it PG-13? Is it rated R? Try to avoid cliches and outdated jokes. Modern audiences are very nuanced and very woke. I have a saying, you want to be woke but not shook. And then brand consistency, right? Sometimes you've got material that you shouldn't use, but you should give to someone else. You came up with it, but it's not consistent with your brand voice. Don't be afraid to give it away now. People will appreciate it. You'll build some brand equity, with those people that you're helping. But, there are so many different ways to monetize your skills. We're going to get into this in a much deeper way over the next few episodes. But here are just a couple of ways that you can monetize your skills. Online workshops and webinars, right? You can offer online paid sessions, workshops, webinars, teaching humor, public speaking, or comedy writing. Now, if this is something that you can see yourself doing, obviously you want to have, 5, 6 years. You want to have some time in the game. You want to have some accomplishments, some things that you can leverage from a marketing standpoint. But I'll tell you this quick story. There was a comedian for a while named David A. Arnold. He actually has 2 Netflix specials. And he was producing a workshop called The Art of Stand-Up. And, I saw the workshop. I was already working as a comic, so I didn't really think I needed to go check it out. But it definitely was something that I was kind of like, okay, here he is. He's a working comic and he's teaching his workshop. But I remember this old cliche that I was kind of hung up on. And it was that it's like those that can do, those that can't teach. And how wrong is that cliche? Because by the time I was ready to actually go to his workshop, first of all, the price doubled. It went from $250 to a $500 workshop, right? Second of all, he was already on his second Netflix special, and he was going to do one last hurrah of this 2-day course. It was going to be 6 hours a day for 2 days for $500. I thought that was a steal of a deal, so I purchased access. Right, paid him some money through Venmo. 2 days before that workshop in LA. Man, David A. Arnold passed away at the young age of like 52 years old. And I was really taken aback by that, I've seen him around here and there. Didn't know him extremely well. He was always nice to me. He was always kind. We were in communication about the workshop. I was excited about it. He passed away. And I never got that $500 back. But, actually I messaged his assistant and I said, hey, if they ever can get access to it, because it was in his personal Venmo account, tell his wife to keep mine to help them moving forward, because that was a devastating loss. But here was a man that produced 2 Netflix specials. He had a show that he wrote for Nickelodeon that Netflix purchased. And so he was finally about to make it. He had been doing comedy for 25 years and was finally about to make it. Years earlier, he overcame addiction. He was touring and doing interviews and really spreading the word and the good news about the power of comedy as a healing mechanism and tool. I was just so proud of him, and I just couldn't have. I wanted to be a part of that workshop, and I couldn't get it done because I waited too long, missed out. So I try to go and get as much knowledge as I can from those who are willing to share it and give it. And, if you're investing in yourself, there's no way you can make yourself completely recession proof. But the best thing to do is invest in you. And you got to learn, you've got to grow, and you've got to iterate on who you are if you want to make it in 2024. So I encourage you to take a look at, the workshops that I have coming up and see if any of them make sense for you. Obviously, corporate events and training, when you start making connections in the corporate realm, especially with folks in the HR department, director of training, etc., there's certain categories where those people are looking for valuable training to bring to their employees to make them obviously happier, but to make them more competitive in the marketplace. So there are a lot of opportunities to give trainings there that you can make entertaining and fun, but make a nice big, 4-figure, 5-figure bag doing it. Writing, selling books and courses, blogs, newsletters. In 2023, I built a $250,000 newsletter, selling very, very specific marketing details for entrepreneurs and small business owners. So you can make a blog, a newsletter. Obviously, you can write books and pamphlets and guides. And obviously, making them funnier makes them better, right? So you can make some money doing that. And then personalized humor services. So you can offer personalized humor service to custom roast writing for people's birthdays, or humorous speeches for events, or personalized comedy videos for special occasions. There's an application called Cameo. When you build your brand enough, people will want you to make them funny videos for various reasons. I have a friend that I actually made a song with called Super Connecting. I actually put it at the end of this podcast, that I found someone on Fiverr who had made over 7,000 songs for other businesses, brands, personalities, podcasts, etc. And that you can do those types of services online and find people who are looking for help with their content. So those are just 5 ways that you can monetize what you do in 2024. There's literally hundreds more. I have 12, a part of my monthly Entrepremedian online Mastermind program. You should check out upmind.club. And let's just talk about some emerging trends here before we get out of here. I know this episode is going a little bit longer than an hour, but that's because I have a lot to say. Very passionate about this content. So before we get out of here, here's some emerging content: virtual reality and augmented reality performances, AI integrated performances, niche podcasting. That's going to be an entire episode on itself. Niche podcasting. Imagine just making a podcast series, just 6 episodes. It just lives online and it just creates value from now until that industry no longer exists. The ability to make niche podcasting is going to be powerful in 2024. Collaborating with influencers and brands. Partner with social media influencers and brands to create joint content marketing campaigns that blend humor with their promotional messaging. This is worth thousands of dollars. I have one brand that pays me $2,500 a month to make content for them. And I just sprinkle a little bit of humor, a little bit of authentic, appreciation for the technology tools, and make a lot of money. And then last but not least, this is one of my favorites: doing charity events with nonprofits. You still get paid, but you are helping them raise money and value for, worthy causes. Make sure they align with you completely, but those people are audiences that will help you grow your brand, both offline and online. And whenever you do these events, I always have a saying: BAM fam. Book a meeting from a meeting. So make sure that you're making connections, because those people will book you for the future. So anyway, it has been an absolute pleasure sharing this time for you. Thank you for the time that you decided to share with me. I'm Jamar.com, Jamar John Johnson, at Jamar J on Instagram, Twitter, and yeah, I look forward to seeing you or hearing from you in the next episode. If you found any value from this podcast whatsoever, please don't hesitate to at least 1, reach out to me and let me know what were your 2 biggest takeaways. 2, leave a review wherever you found this podcast. It's greatly appreciated, and it helps everything I do grow even more. And if you're in the Austin, Texas area and you want to see some live stand-up comedy, go to IamJamar.com/TLC, which stands for Truth, Love, and Comedy. That's the name of my venue, located on 5th in Colorado. We do comedy just about every weekend that I'm in town and not on the road touring. But I hope to expand those nights based on demand, but also based on building my tribe of fellow entrepreneurs. And finally, if you are someone who's an aspiring comedian and you want to learn the business of comedy, you want to get better as an actual performer, as a speaker, and learn to make some real money in this game, don't hesitate to reach out to me, and we can have a talk about some private one-to-one coaching, as well as group coaching, and as well as the Entrepremedian Mastermind, which you can go to upmind.club. That's UPMIND.club, and schedule some time on my calendar at your earliest convenience. But listen, it was an absolute pleasure. I'm going to be putting out 2 more episodes here before the new year. Peace, love, and prosperity. And I hope to see you on the inside. Let's go get super connected.
Yeah. Next level. It's more than connecting. It's about super connecting, you know? Let's go. Making big moves, I can never give it up. Every single day I'm always trying to level up. To success, yeah, I got an obsession. This year I'm trying to have a super connection. It don't matter what you're doing or your profession. This insight here is really a blessing, yeah. To make it at the top is hard. The email list and the business cards, it all came together when I found Jamar. Who would ever think that I could go this far? Stand out from the crowd, build a connector mindset. Learn from a veteran so you can start shining. All the info he's offering, get your foot in the doors and help to grow your audience. Wherever the end goal, yeah, we all need this. Just come tune in to get all the secrets. Let's go. It can be a hard journey to figure out. You wanna elevate, you gotta take a different route. So many times my connections have fizzled out. I need long-lasting relationships, no doubt. This you don't wanna miss. Help to change your mindset, and he's giving you tips. You just gotta tune in, yeah, you gotta check this. J Mar helping us all be super connected. Let's go. Let's get super connected. Let's get super connected. If you got the hustle and the drive, elevate and then we take it high, yeah. Let's get super connected. Let's get super connected. If you got the hustle and the drive, elevate and then we take it high.
Check it. First I had to hustle, then I found the drive. Life is more than just staying alive, cause you gotta thrive. But first you gotta know your purpose and you gotta have a plan. Authentic value added problem solving is the only thing that will really close these deals, so you gotta bring your thinking cap on, lights on, illuminate the path through mentors that's strong. Treat people with love and respect and check on them. Method, action, confidence, and knowledge is key. If you wanna be free, you gotta go super deep whenever possible, using form eloquently. To get to know the person that's in front of you, live or virtual. Keyboard always brings things that makes things personal. Gotta thank my man Keith for super connected with me. Now we free, let's go.
Let's get super connected. Let's get super connected. If you got the hustle and the drive, elevate and then we take it high, yeah. Let's get super connected. Let's get super connected. If you got the hustle and the drive, elevate and then we take it high.
Let's go, let's go.